allow me to introduce to Betty. So tell us, who is Betty?
My name is Betty Kilonzo. I'm a writer, I'm an author, I'm an editor, I'm a mom, and I'm an employer. I'm also an employee. And yeah, formerly a flight attendant. You will know why that is relevant as we proceed. So that's me. You can find me on Facebook. I'm a storyteller on Facebook as Betty Kilonzo, in brackets, Black Startles. That's how you get me on TikTok and on Instagram. Thank you, Msomi, for having me here.
So if you're to describe your writing voice or your writing style, how would you describe it? If you could describe it like food, also it would be helpful for those who relate food with reading, like myself. Okay. So
I love Kenya. Because how nobody has ever asked me that question.
Okay.
How to describe my writing as food?
Not necessarily, but how would you say your writing is?
Well, I would say my writing is, as Tony described it today or earlier, is very engaging, and I like to put myself out there. I don't like to hide between the sheets, between the covers. I like to be seen, and I portray that in my writing. Yeah, so, and also my writing is more of guidance, because I like finding solutions to the problems that are in a society. Personally, I'm not a fan of excuses, because I feel like excuses just really limit us and our capabilities. So if there is a problem, for me, it's not about, okay, there's a problem, and the reason I cannot achieve this thing is because of this and this. For me, it's about, there is a problem, so how do we go about getting over this problem so that we can achieve what we want to achieve?
Why write about the Househelp Manual? Why is it that it is you who's written this book?
I asked myself that. I thought about it like that too for a long period before I wrote the manual, because generally I write stories, humorous stories, I write fiction, I've written poetry, but I've never really thought of myself as the kind of person to write a practical guide like this. And every time I was onboarding a Househelp, I used to think to myself, oh man, I just wish there was a manual. Because like I said, I am a former flight attendant, and I've been a flight attendant for like 4 years now. And in being a flight attendant, we had a manual as a cabin crew, and this manual had everything from first aid to aircraft safety to doing your checks to everything. And that is how I managed to be so effective in my job, having that manual. And secondly, it held me accountable, because having that manual, I cannot just tell my boss the reason I didn't do my aircraft checks, or the reason I didn't do one thing or the other is because I forgot. Because I have a manual and I have it every day in my bag, and it's something that is actually a flight requirement. I cannot go to an aircraft without carrying that manual with me. It's almost the same as carrying your passport. And having it in your pocket at all times makes sure that you are always up to par when it comes to your work. You are up to date with everything. And therefore, also, every time I would be frustrated in the house because of one issue or the other with the Househelp, I would just think to myself, man, I wish there was a manual, so that when I come home and I ask, why is this thing not working the way it's supposed to work, and yet I already sat you down and I told you, this is how I want the house to run, you come back and tell me, oh, I forgot. Or you tell me, oh, you didn't tell me that. You didn't tell me that, the baby is not supposed to drink sugar, for example. Or you didn't tell me that you want the house to be washed maybe every day. So, and even if you told them, it's your word against theirs, So, but when there is a manual, there is a third word, a word that is actually cast in stone, literally, because it's in a book. There is a clear guideline. And so for a long time I kept thinking, I wish the same way we had manuals and they were so effective in the aircraft, I wish we had a manual for this house. Then I don't have to deal with all of these things. And I looked around, Nuria bookshop, everywhere, I couldn't find a manual. And I just kept thinking and wishing and praying a writer would just come and write a manual and save me from all of this. Until one day I realized, I am a writer. I might not be, this might not be generally my journal, but who says I cannot sit down and write a manual? Be the solution that you want to see in the world. So I went ahead and sat down and I wrote a manual, and the first manual was actually like 25 pages, and it was designed for my house. In fact, even instead of saying, wake up and do this for the child, I was using my son's name. I was writing it as wake up and feed Marvel instead of wake up and feed the child. So it was very personalized for my house. And I printed it out, stapled it, and gave it to her like a folder and told her, this is what we are going to be using for the house. And let me tell you, in less than 2 weeks, I saw changes in the house, very positive changes. And that is when I presented it as a manuscript to Ikitabu. And I was a little bit, I didn't know if they were going to take it in because it's a new concept, and really even I myself was doubtful about it. We Kenyans, we don't even read user manuals, the ones we have for our electricals. Why would someone want to read a Househelp manual? But then Will, my publisher, and the team, they read it and they thought it was a very, good concept and they wanted to take it in. So I went back to the drawing board, and now I created something that we could publish and give it out to everybody, added in more details. And yeah, with this team, we came up with this.
Oh, impressive. You can clap, Aki, you people. I am a seasoned curriculum designer. I'm not a frustrated high school teacher. So there are three ways this can go. An employer will buy and keep it for themselves, or they would buy and give the employee, or they would buy and use with the employee. I want your opinion on what success looks like for you. How would you know that your project has been successful? What are you aspiring, hoping to see happen with regard to the manual?
I'm hoping that this manual becomes a household item for every house in Kenya. That in Kenya and even beyond. That to me would be what success looks like. And it's not just about bringing in the sales. Of course, that is a factor. But I would love to see better relationships in homes, because I'm telling you, it goes beyond just having a house help. When you have a peaceful home, like she said, I love what she said, that having a house help whom she stayed with for 19 years, first of all, that is just
19.
Wow. I know people who have like 2 house helps every year,
19 house helps every year.
Yes, even that year. Yeah, and let me tell you, so having that stable structure, having that a conducive environment like that, it will allow a lot of people to do a lot of things. It will allow you to save money. It will allow you to pursue your interest. It will bring up healthy children, and it will also give you a sense of, the self-love they keep on preaching on TikTok. It starts at home. Everything starts at home. If your home is being run in a professional and good way, that is how you're going to present yourself even out here. Children who have got caregivers that are mindful and that respect them, you will see them even in public. Like the beautiful little lady that came here to give us stretching exercises, that you can definitely see that is a child that has been brought up in an environment that encourages her to be courageous, for her to come in front here and give adults exercises, But if a kid is continuously criticized and critiqued and all of that, even that child, if you tell the child, go in front and say something, the judgment and the shame can never allow them to come to a place like that. So we want a better society where children are respected, where people are feeling respected. Even the domestic workers, the house helps, they are feeling respected. That is what success would look like.
What you are foreseeing is mainstreaming Irene's experience. That becomes the norm rather than the exception.
Yes.
All right, so what are your final remarks? What would you tell the people here about Househelp Manual, or about the process of developing the manual?
this manual was designed by me to give to my house help. And I have tried and I have tested it and it works. It does work. Number 2, this is supposed to protect you, okay? It's supposed to protect you and your peace and the environment of your house. I know you might say, oh, this Betty, it's like somebody said it reads like somebody who has OCD. But this, no, this is not about OCD. This structure is not about OCD. Actually, when you give your house help this, and your house help learns this and has this in her fingertips, they become independent. You don't even have to micromanage them. The reason you micromanage your house help is because you know in your heart of hearts that your house help is incompetent. You know that if you leave that house help, she will burn down your house. That is why you're always snooping, always there, always checking your camera. You cannot even go to work. You cannot even pursue interest. When your friends call you for a Friday evening to go maybe to, beautiful ladies having book nights and having book clubs, you can't even read a book. You can't go to a book club and sit down and settle down and pursue interest because you know you cannot leave your house up in the house because she's not competent. But this one is going to help your house help to become competent. That is number 1. Number 2, even you yourself as an employer, you cannot state professionalism or you cannot state standards when you yourself, you don't know. You don't know how to train a house help because you also don't know how to run a house. You think you do, but you do not. When I was writing this book, I was doing some research and I realized that in order to have a table that is as shiny and a surface that is as shiny as this and keeping it looking shiny like that, you need to wax your tables. How many people know that they should be waxing their wooden surfaces? See, we do not know that. I also didn't know that. I knew that from researching when I was making this. But this Househelp Manual has all of that about waxing, about how to take care of different kinds of floors. It saves you money. How? FIFO. First in, first out. The rules of a fridge. So if you're not storing your food the right way, that means your food is getting spoiled all the time, which means you're throwing food away, which means you're going to the to do grocery shopping every single time, which means you're spending more money in the supermarket buying food. If you don't know how to take care of your clothes, it means your clothes fade out, which means you're always in the boutiques buying new clothes, you know? And let me tell you, wealth is created by the little saving and your spending habits. And your spending habits are directly linked to how you take care of things. If you don't take care of your table, it's going to wear and tear. And then now you have to go back to the shop and buy another table. If you don't take care of your clothes, you have to go to the clothes store, get new clothes. If you don't take care of your shoes, you have to buy new shoes each and every time. Same goes for electricals. And these things are expensive. This is money you could be saving to do your other projects, to pursue a higher career, you know, a higher education, advance your career, do other things. You see people out here and people look like they have money. It's not about having money, it's about how you manage that money. And inside that house, you are an employer. Your home is a little company. How you run that company will tell you if that company is going to be profitable or not, you know? And also professionalism. You have to be very knowledgeable for you to be a professional person, you know? Actually, what we call professionalism is just a person who is knowledgeable. When somebody knows a lot about a certain subject, whether they are qualified or not, you just hear people saying that person is very professional. And if you don't know how to do these things, you cannot lead with professionalism. There's going to be a lot of yelling, a lot of everything. And last but not least, please think of the little ones in that house. Those ones are the whole reason. If I didn't have a son, I wouldn't even need a house help. You know, like she said, her son is about to maybe leave the house. When it becomes an empty nest, she might not need her house help anymore, right? Those little kids in there, those kids are the reasons for everything. My son is the reason. I worry so much about that boy and the people I bring around to the point that I even wrote a manual just so that I can make sure that the environment is conducive enough for him. Because the damages that can go into a kid, trust me, they are too expensive to repair and some you cannot even repair. It's not as easy as you think. bringing in somebody that doesn't know how to handle a choking baby. You think it's just jokes and games until you're in town and the baby is choking on a fish bone or anything, and now you are burying this kid. Yeah, let that sink in. You think it's all jokes. You think it's all games until the baby, the spilt milk is on the leg. And I was honestly, I love that the story ended well, but I had a very bad imagination in my head. The baby burns themselves. This nanny runs away. The burn is so bad that, you know, sometimes the skin even connects together, and now that baby is lame. Yeah, let that sink in. Or the microwave, they put, even I myself make mistakes. There was a time I had the aluminum foil food with the carbon paper on top, and I put it in the microwave. Next thing I knew, the paper was on fire. Did you know that? Did you know that papers can catch fire when you put them in microwaves? I didn't know. I didn't know that. It was on fire, and then I ran and, you know, I fought the fire. Good thing, you know, firefighting, safety, all of that, thanks to aviation. I know all that. But now imagine that happens to the nanny, and then she freaks out, and then she runs away and leaves the house, and then the microwave catches, the steamer catches everything. You come back, everything is burnt down. Think about that. You know, the baby is nose bleeding, and then bleeds out. By the time you're coming from work to come and deal with the situation, the baby has had brain damage because of all the bleeding out, or even worse, death. Think about that. Think about yourself. There was a time I received some very bad news. I was going through a lot of stress, and I fainted in my house. And I had a househelp, not the one I have now, another one. And she didn't put me in recovery position. And I was lying on the sofa, and my airways were kind of blocked because I was lying like this, you know. Let's just say God loves me because I came to. But imagine if I lay there for a while and I wasn't breathing. Next thing, I am dead. You know, think about that. So there's just a lot. This Professor Humphrey Ojwang, on the other side, he said, unlike the storybooks, where it's just entertainment, this is actually life and death. So that is all I will say.
Well said, well said. A round of applause for our author. I want to bring this to a close because I know you are itching for your copies to be autographed by the author because it's here so that you can say, I was there, and take a photo with her. Do you have questions for Betty as we conclude? Audience.
Manuals all in the corporate world, policies and standard operating procedures is what brings order, even in institutions. So finally, having a manual for running a home is you have given dignity to this profession, because people now don't just work. And you have protected not just the employer, but also the employee. Because sometimes the employer will make noise to the employee for things they have not done, which they have not even told them, like bona hukufanya hivi, and they did not even tell them, or they vent out on the poor house help because she can't do anything. So I think for me what stood out is that issue of the fridge, because my house help loves to cook. So utapata, she cooks not because there are people to eat, but because time imefika. So sometimes ata we are not even there, tumeenda, tunakuja late na amepika, so utapata fridge iko na kuku, amepika tena beef, kulikuwa na fish ya jana, alipika chapo, kuna mandazi asubuhi, kuna pancake. I'm like, oh my God. So so sometimes there is a day I asked her, before you cook, do ask yourself, who am I cooking for?
I thought you had a good relationship with your nanny.
We do,
okay.
yeah. That is part of the
dynamics
relationship.
of a good relationship.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and because I didn't have a manual, like this is how you, so I have to, how I do it is like, before you cook, angalia what is there in the fridge. Is this something you can maybe cook stew or something, just salad or vegetable and all that. So this will really even help save money, and also issues of wastages. Unapata chakula inatupwa a lot in households and all that. So yeah, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Having a manual is actually very good, and it will help the busy employers. Sometimes you get a nanny and there's no time for onboarding. Unaambia tu fridge ndio hiyo, jiko ndio hiyo, cook anything, the store is here. My question relates to the guy who asked the first time that to whom are we directing this book to? Maybe it is in the pipeline. Is it possible to put the language in this manual, maybe another version later, in the language of the nanny? Some of them have not gone to school very well, might have a problem to read or to understand some of the vocabulary. Is it possible to convert it to Kiswahili version? Maybe you have another version in Swahili, so that if I give my nanny as an onboarding document, when they come, I tell them, hii itakusaidia kufanya kazi, in case of anything, ask me. So maybe you can bring it down to the language of the nanny, especially those who have not gone to school, to understand some of the terms. Thank you.
This is just simple English that anybody with a decent education, even like Form 4, from class 8, they can read it and they can understand it. But mostly for the employer, especially during the onboarding. Also on top of that, the book has got illustrations. When you check inside, you see like this. This is an illustration of how to use the fire extinguisher, and they're using the pass method, which is pull at the pin, aim, and then squeeze, and then sweep side to side, pass. Pull, aim, and then squeeze, and then pass side to side. So they have illustrations. So even for those people who do not understand, they can look at the illustration, especially for these very key points, and they can see, on top of just reading, they can say, okay, this is what it's saying, this is what it's saying. But yes, we do, I think there is a plan of having it translated to the Swahili language and maybe other, yes. Yeah, so thank you for that. And I don't know if I'm the right person to answer, but I'm also going to answer Mike before we close. Mike, the thing is this, and I repeated this on the other forum. This book, yes, originally I had titled it for the Kenyan middle class, because Kenyan middle class is the broadest economic class in Kenya right now. And I thought to myself, well, for all the people in the upper class, chances are they are hiring people who are already trained, you know? So maybe chances are those people are already trained and they already know their thing, and maybe they might not be interested in having a manual, even though I really think having a manual is something that no matter how trained you are, because even people in Qatar Airways, they still have manuals, right? It doesn't matter how trained you are. This is like a reminder you to put on the table for you to remind yourself. But I said, okay, because I'm a middle class myself, I want to write something for other middle class people like me so that they can be able to manage their homes. And you are asking about the people down, you know, at the ghetto and all of that. And I'm going to tell you this. Everybody deserves a decent life. Every single person deserves a decent life. Even if you're living, you have only one plate, one spoon, and one fork, and one knife. You deserve to have it when you're serving yourself. Present your plastic plate there, and your cup there, and your spoon there in a dignified manner. Even if you have your bed sheet is mtush, yeah, 150, you can still fold it properly on the bed and make the corners. Those corners don't cost money, right? They don't cost money. When it comes to fire safety, if you cannot afford an extinguisher right now, have a bucket of sand, apple. You know, have a blanket on standby in case your gas ilipuke, right? Let's say you have a child and you're living down at the ghetto. So you think ghetto children don't choke. In fact, the chances of a ghetto child choking is higher. So you need this manual so that you can know what to do if your ghetto child chokes, right? Yes, so this cuts across board. I had only written it was for the Kenyan middle class because, as I said, I was writing thinking of myself and other people who are in the same space as myself. And I was also thinking, well, this person that is at the ghetto, when they employ this house help, how is the employment contract, you know? Are they capable of offering a contract? Are they capable of paying the house help as per the law, you know? So, if the answer is yes, then you need the manual. If the answer is no, then I would advise for them to look for other options like having a day bag and all of that, something that they can afford. And still, even with the day bag, you will still need to know how to mop a floor the right way, how to make the bed, how to have a good relationship with the children. So for as long as you have a house, for as long as that house needs to be taken care of, for as long as you have a child or you do not have a child, for as long as you have ever been around any child at all, could be your neighbor's child. People will call you Mike. Say, Mike, my child is choking, I don't know what to do. You go there and you save a life. So everybody needs this manual. Thank you.
Well said, well said. Thank you for that.